Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Skeptic and Ranting on Is Earth the center of the solar system, or even the center of the universe? Well, no, I'm pretty sure that was Becky from high school. But won't you join the Skeptic crew as we take a trip down the geocentric model of doom? Now, for tonight's entertainment, we have Robert Sungeese, I hope I'm saying that correctly,
Sejanus.
along with Fight the Flat Earth. But Sejanus is defending the yes side in the form of his intro from the lovely modern day debate, along with Flat Earth's response. And then we'll get into full-on commentary mode. So with that, I'll send the link into stream. And if anyone would like to join us, come on down. How are you tonight, James?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, Amy? You got your homework in?
I got my homework in.
All right, so we're ready to debate. Look at that. Nice how James has that little glamour shot of T-Jump in the corner there, just to try to integrate T-Jump into as much as we can. T-Jump is ambassador.
That's right. And Space Hoax, I mean, that's not too dissimilar, I will say.
It's like probably the Space Busters, like an offshoot of Globe Busters. Only possibly less logical. That's I guess the only difference. Yeah, less logical. So here we go. We got Robert Sejanus here. And I'm just going to take a stab. What do you think Robert is on his... Where do you think he stands on the religion aspect? Do you think he's an atheist or you think he's a believer?
It's funny that you mentioned that. I have a prophecy because I know I'm going to speak about it later, but I don't think that he has many Flying Spaghetti Monster posters hanging behind him. I will say that.
You think those are probably mostly theology books, Bibles?
Yeah, I would probably say so. And it's an interesting... Well, we'll go through that as the video plays. And welcome, Donald.
Hey, Donald.
Hello.
Welcome.
Are you ready for some...
I missed that debate, by the way, so this would be my first time seeing any of it.
I just got to catch a little bit of it, but I know the gentleman here, Mr. Sejanus. He's not a dumb guy. He's actually well-read theologically. It's just when he tries to take that and apply that to the natural world is where all hell breaks loose.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, if somebody spent all of their time or some substantial part of their time studying supernatural as opposed to natural, or in other words, non-reality rather than reality, it can kind of leave them there.
And he has actually, I believe it's been twice, 2 to 3 times, converted from Protestantism or from Catholicism to Protestantism and then back to Catholicism again, only then to convert to Protestantism again and go back to Catholicism, which is where I think he is now. So he's a little wishy-washy.
Maybe that's kind of like going on strike. You got a job, you go on protest for a little while, and you come back to your job, and you go back on protest for a while.
But his belief in geocentrism...
I'm just saying that is what Protestant means.
Yes. But his belief in geocentrism begins with his idea that the church endorsed it in the Galileo trial, and therefore that couldn't be wrong because he actually believes what the Bible says, where it says God would send the Holy Spirit to teach us all things, and therefore the Holy Spirit would be leading the church. So if the church says Earth's the center, it must be the center. There you go.
And before you respond, Donald?
And the church retracted that later, by the way.
In 92.
Just wanted to say, welcome, Ogre. Are you ready for some fun?
Hello.
Hey, Ogre.
I
How
don't
we
got
doing?
much time, so if I leave, because I gotta go to bed, just so you know.
We
Well,
completely
thanks for coming
being
understand.
here. What time
while
you
you
can.
can.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And so, before I start, if you guys feel like pausing, because I feel I've watched both of these openers already. No offense, Robert, I love you, but I feel like his intro is a little on the dry side. So we're gonna do a little skeptic Bible study on geocentrism tonight. So without further ado, just let's
Peradventure.
start the fun. Peradventure.
We'll jump into the opening statement. So we'll hand it over to Robert. And thank you guys both for being here. The floor is all yours, Robert.
All right. Well, thank you for being so candid. I appreciate that. I know pretty much what I have to deal with now. I do want to say one thing though, that Brian, is it Brian or
Craig?
I'm sorry, Greg.
Craig, C-R-A-I-G.
Craig. I'm sorry,
You could call
Craig.
me Fights if you like.
Brian, Greg,
Oh.
Greg, you know,
We got that one right.
Yeah, but I'm gonna call you Craig.
same thing, right?
We're
Okay,
making
so
progress.
What Craig and I do have in common is we're both against the flat Earth. I think we both appreciate that when science says
I will say, just to pause it, there is this. I don't know if it has to do with relation with what Donald's debate, but I noticed this thing with names, this thing with attaching to yourself to real names. I don't know what it is, but I find it. I've never found an atheist who was like, "Oh, Bob." No, your real name was Bob. Maybe
but-
that's just me, but
But listen how he's like talking down on flat earthers right here as he's about to advocate for a theory that's basically on par with flat earthers.
I have that as one of my notes.
What?
Is that yes, exactly. It's almost like a power. It's like he doesn't want to quite shit on them, but he doesn't want to quite poo them away either. We'll see. We'll find that out.
certain things
Right.
and they're verifiable by experiment.
And if you want to stop, just say foreskin, popcorn, Peradventure, or just tell me.
I was just gonna say, say with regard to the whole name thing, I kind of like the way Aaron Ra handled it, because when Kent Hovind insisted on not only calling him by what he thought was his real name, but making up a first name and calling him by that, which wasn't ever his name at all.
Larry, yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, repeatedly, intentionally mispronouncing his name when it was obvious he knew how to pronounce it right. Just went on and on with that sort of name jabbing. In addition to ad hominem attacks and stuff, rather than actually debating. Kent just decided. After Kent did that enough, Aaron just decided, well, okay, you want to play that game, I can play that game too. And from then on, he just called him by his prisoner number.
Yeah, but I don't understand what is with this obsession with names. And it comes specifically, I hate to tie it to theism, because there really is no direct correlation. It just seems like I never find atheists that do it.
Well, I mean, look at Yahweh. He's always changing people's names,
Yeah, well, Yahweh goes by a bunch of different names. Jesus, according to most Christians, Jesus was prophesied in the Old Testament, and they said that his name would be Emmanuel.
Yeah. They get a lot of that.
And also it is and I don't think it's actually in the Bible, but it is a common part of Christian folklore, so to speak, that if you want to have power over a demon, and this I think actually comes from paganism or something, but it's very common in Christian beliefs that if you want to have power over a demon, you have to call it by its true name. And they do sort of see us. They do sort of see us atheists as demons, devil worshippers, anything they can consider evil, so that they don't have to consider the possibility that we might be right.
I agree. And so we're only going to watch the intros. This won't be a whole debate commentary, but I feel like this will give us a good basis, and at least Robert will at least have their point of view.
Let's hear what he has to say.
Experiments can be shifted toward a favored view. Sometimes, and most of the time, when things go wrong, the experiments are not interpreted correctly, or they are interpreted to favor a certain view. So science does have its flaws in the sense that it's not a perfect institution, but at least it's on the right path. Men, however, sometimes get in the way of the science because there's empirical data on the one hand, and then there's what we would like it to be interpreted as because it fits with our cultural worldview or our scientific worldview, or in many cases, our view of whether God exists or not. Like even the flat earthers, for example. Many of them, I think probably 80–90% of them are Christian evangelicals who believe that the Bible has to be interpreted literally. And this is where they get their basis for the flat earth because they think the Bible.
And okay, here's his first, and it may be his only real pot shot at both religion and the flat earth. And I find both of those literally ironic because I took a look on his website, and I will bring it up, but at a certain point. But he is religiously motivated. Not only is he religiously motivated, and it rarely comes up in the conversation, except for in this apparent critique, but he does not believe in evolution. I found that out from going on his
young earther.
And so
he believes in literal Adam and Eve. He said so in the debate in the Q&A. He believes it takes it literally.
Yeah. So it really is all about religion, even though religion comes up very rarely. In fact, at a certain point, Fight the Flat Earth, for good justification, says that he doesn't want to have a religious debate, which I understand. But it's so funny. I really want to have like a combined, if I could get a flat earther or a geocentrist person, almost like a combined theology / flat earth debate. Because I really do think that is the crux here. And I'll be and hi, Robert, and I'll send a new link. Oh, Discord invite has expired. Okay, I'll figure that out too.
Well, it would be interesting to get a debate going between, a flat earther who's not a theist and a globe earther who is a theist. The problem is I don't think you're going to find a flat earther who's not a theist.
I've never met one. James says he's met like one.
I've only seen like one or two, but I wouldn't remember even who they were.
My guess is it was probably a Poe. Might have been real.
Yeah. And another thing I will say, if you're expecting him to, in my opinion, give evidence for a geocentric model, it's not going to come in his intro. What you're going to get is a history / science, his version of a history science lesson of critiques and critiquing Newton and things like that. But an actual model, I don't think we're going to find it.
Yeah.
It's a flat.
Yeah.
Well, I can give you a model for the for the Earth centricism, the geocentric non-flat Earth. It's not a very good model. It's not a very good model, but it's probably better than you'll get offered. And that is the idea that, if the Earth isn't a frisbee, it can't be going around the sun, can it?
I guess. And I always find it. I made my Becky joke, but does anyone else find it a little self-centered to think that we are indeed, our planet is the center of the universe? I know that's kind of an emotional argument.
Religion. If you believe in Christianity.
Well, if you're egotistical enough to think that the universe was created just for our species, it isn't much of a leap to go from there to, we're at the center of it. I mean, why would God want to have to look around all over the place to find which planet he left us on? Just go right to the center.
And I don't even know what a center would even mean. Like, I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of all of the other galaxies, all the rest of the.
I mean,
Every time. Yeah,
it's infinite.
what's that?
Any place could be the center, right?
Yeah. I was just going to say a center implies it's in a finite size. It really doesn't make any sense otherwise. Also, not just a finite size, but also a non-wrapping finite size. Basically, a flat universe as opposed to a hyperspherical universe.
Excuse me, Robert. The Earth is shaped like a velociraptor, and I will not take any of you sheeple's opinions.
I thought it was like a cupcake.
Ah, that does
Shouldn't
sound
be
good.
Earth, boomerang.
Boomerang, a velociraptor. We're open-minded on this channel.
Cupcake. Gay
Cupcake.
universe.
We'll take anything.
But it just shows you how influential your theological viewpoint may be on a certain case at issue. And
I think that is the one statement I'm going to agree with Robert on
Just
the
let the
entire
cat out of
night.
the bag.
You know how to beat both sides of the flat Earth, spherical Earth debate?
How?
Just take the position that the Earth is lumpy.
Very lumpy. You're saying the Earth should get something checked out?
The
Is that what
hollow
you're saying?
Earth, the concave Earth, the
Yeah,
convex
doesn't
Earth.
matter which shape it is. You won that one. The Earth is lumpy.
The Earth is made entirely out of Rick and Morty. And okay, we're going. Ooh.
the flat Earth is one, but whether the Earth is in the center of the universe is another. Our worldview is going to impact how we interpret the evidence. And that's not something that's easy to get away from. So let me start with the mechanics, though. So we have something from which to spring off of. We've all heard of Copernicus and Galileo, okay? And we've heard maybe of Tycho Brahe and Kepler and some people
All those
around
idiots.
1500, 1600 who were battling
Doesn't sound like mechanics yet.
on whether the Earth went around the sun or the sun went around the Earth. They weren't the first ones. The Greeks, back in the time of the Pythagoreans, Aristotle, Aristarchus, they were battling back and forth the same subject, whether the Earth went around the sun or the sun went around the Earth, and they were split right down the middle. Okay,
They didn't have the Bible, so they get an excuse.
This whole revival,
Yeah.
Copernican or the heliocentric system,
Exactly.
that he got that from Aristarchus of Samos, and he basically took it hook, line, and sinker. Aristarchus believed the circular orbits of the planets.
Yeah, go figure.
Copernicus. Ptolemy came in between them, and he was a Greek astronomer from the 2nd century. And he had the idea that the sun and the planets went around the Earth, wherein the sun takes the 3rd circle, and Mars takes the 4th, and Jupiter takes the 5th. So he had an interesting way to describe the geocentric. About later,
Yeah.
it didn't work.
Epicycles,
And although it came close, because
epicycloids.
devices on there like an equant that helped smooth things out, and it was a very intriguing, very useful device to try to keep track of where the planets and stars would be every year, and it worked pretty well. It wasn't perfect, but it worked pretty well with his equant. And I can't go in and describe what an equant is, but it
Why
made
not?
up for the kind of some of the mistakes that he made in his model. So then comes along Copernicus, and he says, no, the sun belongs in the center. And he thought that he had found the solution to cosmology, basically. He was hired by the Pope to try to fix the calendar, and Copernicus believed that the calendar was messed up because the solar system was messed up. So he put the Earth
He was messed up.
following Aristarchus of Samos.
Also, does anyone hear any evidence yet We're going through history lessons. Any evidence?
I mean, this just sounds like so much work. All they had to do is pick up the Bible. It was there all along, right?
I know. We could have skipped doing
Yeah.
any. I don't know even know why
why
we're
do
going through
experiments?
science.
Well, why do
I'm waiting.
experiments?
I'm waiting to hear how the sun going around the Earth explains parallax of nearby stars.
I'd like to know that too. They honestly, they never give explanations for other solar systems, other galaxies, stars. I want to know how the solar system is built in their model. Like, is it? Do we use all this science, but then we have to go back to the 6 days of creation to explain the other stuff?
God just made ours special. He just made it the only one like this.
I'm just saying, there's a year-long wobble cycle of the whole sky, which is easily explained by the Earth going around the sun and not explained at all by the sun going around the Earth. So I'm waiting to hear what the explanation is for that.
God just made it that way to make it look like, just to fool you, to make it look like the Earth goes around the sun.
It's the platypus defense, exactly.
I know it's God. It's God shaking the firmament very slowly.
Like God made the light from stars that are 13 billion light years away. He made it like halfway, so he didn't have to take all that time to get there. Not only did he make it
that far away, but apparently he made it in like a wobbling sequence all the way back to that far away, so that as it would reach here, it would appear that the stars shift position once a year.
I mean, look, when God made Adam, Adam wasn't an infant. He didn't have to sit there and cradle Adam for 20 years till he was old enough. He made him a fully formed man, ready to name all the animals and get married on day one.
Not necessarily. He might have been a precocious baby.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And okay, I think we're getting through it. And so the great thing is we'll get through Robert's point, and then we'll have 1,000,000 points to pause with Fight the Flat Earth, because he just spits out too much rationality too fast. So we'll have a lot of fun with him.
And like Aristarchus, he put the planets going around the sun, including the Earth, in circular orbits. And this caused a problem, because we know today the planets don't go around the sun in circular orbits. They go
they go in elliptical orbits.
I think he just Freudian slipped there.
Because it's not exactly.
What was it? What was the slip?
He said that we know that planets don't go around the sun in circular orbits.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of confirm that. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The geocentric model doesn't have the planets going around around the sun in circular orbits, but it also doesn't have the planets going around the sun in elliptical orbits. It has the Earth going around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and all of the other planets going around the sun in epicycloids.
Mm-hmm.
Which are ridiculously much more complex than an ellipse. Just saying. And not to mention that all of those epicycloids are completely in line with the sun-centered model, so that the extra rotation within them completely cancels out if you put the sun at the center.
Yeah, and honestly, they've probably been explained a lot of this stuff by other physicists, atheists, skeptics, their teachers in high school.
Yeah,
I don't understand how.
Well, it's like this. It's like, well, your model is like badly wrong, and they're like, well, but your model is wrong too.
Yeah,
because your model is the model where the planets go around the sun in a circle, and you say no, our model is where it goes around in an ellipse. It's like, no, yours is the one where it goes around in a circle. Ours is the one where it goes around like this.
And I'm not 100% sure if he if he says this in his intro or later on, but he takes all sorts of pot shots at Newtonian physics, which he doesn't believe in. He thinks that special and general relativity believe in his thing. So he believes in all sorts of interesting, I'm going to go with hypotheses.
Oh, by the way, I should mention, and I'm not certain of this, but I'm pretty sure, I don't think those epicycloids were ever elliptical at their core either. They were epicycloids based on a circle going around a circle, which means to the extent that the model of planets going around the sun in a circle was inaccurate, the epicycloid model was exactly as inaccurate. Plus, it was much more unnecessarily complex. So it's not like they had a model that predicted anything any more accurately. It just was more complicated and solved nothing. Just saying.
Yep. And giving a shout out to your channel, but while we're shouting that out, we're also going back.
Well, that's another issue. So he really couldn't get his model to work correctly. When he started in 1510, by the time he published his book, De Revolutionibus, he had, in 1543, he had more epicycles in his model than Ptolemy did. Okay, Ptolemy had 40 epicycles. Copernicus ended up with 48. The reason being is because he put the planets in circular orbits. That's one of the reasons. So the debate went back and forth, but all those debates were just geometrical. Nobody was talking about forces and dynamics and things of that nature. They were just talking about how is it going to look if we put the sun here, the earth here, and how are the circles going to be drawn and all that kind of stuff. So it's just geometrical. By the time of Newton, which was, he was actually born the year that Galileo died. Newton and Leibniz and Euler and a lot of guys during that time started to get into dynamical forces, dealing with gravity and inertia and things of that nature. And so Newton proposed that the reason the Earth has to go around the sun was because of his second law of motion, F equals ma. And if you have a bigger mass on one side of the equation and you put it into an orbit, then the smaller of the masses, of the two masses, is going to have to go around the larger.
Look at Fight the Flat Earth screen. He just had a face palm on it. Yet you see he had that...
Did he really?
Yeah, he had like a Captain Picard face palm go right on his screen. That's amazing. I didn't notice that before.
Yeah, that's handy. Let me tell you.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And it's let's be honest, it's what we were all thinking and feeling.
You know, everybody who saw that, I mean, all the philosophers, Immanuel Kant, Hegel, everybody just loved that because
everybody who saw that
had the real reason why the Earth went around the sun. It wasn't just geometrical anymore. It just didn't look like a pretty picture. Now we had all the forces behind it. So basically at that time, Newton put the knife into the geocentric model because there wasn't anybody to compete with Newton and put the geocentric model.
Now, this sounds like an admission. Once again, this sounds like a second admission of defeat, but it's basically like he's trying to, I would say, dig a hole so he can climb out of it, but I don't know.
He wants a hole to climb out of?
I guess so.
He's like there was nobody to advocate the geocentric model. Wonder why.
Yeah.
Oh, there were plenty of people to advocate the geocentric model. The problem is nobody could do it well because there was nothing really to support it.
Well, that would be a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. Still, for those that want to support that model, that's a problem. They've got nothing to do with.
And okay, Mubarak, you're saying you're the center of the universe. I did think that it was Becky, but I'm willing to take your word for this conversation and stream. I think I kind of like it.
Dynamic.
Makes sense.
That is one of the forces
Makes sense.
that is causing the
Well, if there is
suffering on the earth.
if there is a center of the universe, it's got to be the in the vicinity of the cosmic microwave background radiation.
Yeah. And as far as I can understand it, everywhere is the center because it's inflating, and that's
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
infinite, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying by that model, the center is like as far away from us as we can possibly see in every direction.
If I had one troll question I could ask Robert, it would be, what if the center of the universe is actually a Waffle House? Like a very specific Waffle House.
Yeah.
Makes
A lot
sense
of people-
to me.
A lot of people think it's a Starbucks, because I mean, sometimes you can be in a Starbucks and you walk out the door and across the street and enter a Starbucks.
Yeah.
There are quite a few of them, yeah.
I'm still
And
sitting here
Robert,
wondering
I
when he's
love
going
your
to stop
support.
talking about the 1500s. Sweet Lord.
He's not. This seems to be his entire tactic.
I saw
is
this
he's
debate.
not gonna-
I know he doesn't, but
He's just trying to go over the history of when how
Yeah, that's what I was-
geocentrism.
That's what I was thinking. When is he going to talk about reality rather than history?
you hit the nail on the head there. He can't talk reality, so he has to try to sound smart.
Oh, they got it wrong back then,
Smart?
so
Sounding smart?
Yeah. And explaining scientific history is not evidence towards your claim. But thank you, Robert. You seem like a
Yeah.
nice guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, basically, the scientific history is like, well, we had some ideas and we improved on them and we improved on them and we improved on them and we improved on them. And he's going, well, we had these old ideas, therefore they were right.
must have been.
yeah. Well, he also, I'll get into all sorts of notes, but I think he believes in the ether. I believe he believes in
I
that
think so,
that
yeah.
old concept.
I shouldn't have said that. That's too close to straw manning. Well, I'll let him speak for himself.
That's
So basically, Newton reigned for the next 200 years. That was like from 1687 when he published his Principia to about the late 1800s, and that's where his reign came to an end. At that time, a guy named Ernst Mach came along, and he said, well, yeah, if you use the solar system as your model and you avoid the rest of the universe, sure, the Earth has to go around the sun. No questions asked. Because the sun is bigger, the center of mass is near the sun, and so the Earth must go around. Both bodies go around the center of mass. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
But Mach said, if you include the rest of the universe, things change. Because now you have dynamic forces coming from.
so here we are. We are
Yeah.
at the bottom of his pit. Where he's
Okay,
gonna try and turn it around.
The problem there is that he's not understanding that it's not the center of all mass. It is the local center of mass, and there is a reduction of effect with distance. So if you're talking about stars that are light years away, they are not part of the center of the local center of mass because
Yeah, their
their
gravity
effect
has
is too
minimal
small at that
effect over
distance.
here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait till he starts
not-
talking about math.
It's not that it has no effect at all, but I mean, if they're 1,000 light years away, it takes 1,000 years for that effect to even get here. And when it does get here, it's extremely small.
Yeah, compared
He
to the
has
sun,
no
it's just you'll
understanding
never
of-
notice it.
mass to begin with. Just wait till he starts talking physics. It's like he read Newton's equations off a bumper sticker, and that's the level of his knowledge in this stuff. It's pretty bad.
Also, I'm pretty sure Fight the Flat Earth is a retired aerospace engineer or an engineer of some sort. So it is our continuation of people with that expertise lecturing. No, not lecturing. Like I said, Robert's a nice guy, but our continuation of the expertise and the credentialed versus
Pontificating on things he
Yeah.
doesn't really know that much about.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like here's your solution. It's F equals ma. Meaning what? That F equals ma.
I mean, it's like listening to John Maddox and Otangelo try and disprove evolution, by looking at a scientific paper they don't understand.
Yes, and by not writing their own papers, which if they actually felt like they could put their money where their mouth is, they would get in the friggin' lab. They would try and figure out some way that they could peer review their papers so they can convince not the schmucks, but the actual important people, the scientists in the field who they could actually get their ideas in textbooks, which is what a lot of these people actually want. Wink, wink, wink. So if they want to do that, you're going to have to go through the proper channels.
We should get used to thinking of both sides of this conversation as brilliant, just in preparation for Wednesday.
Well, yes. I like strong manning them. And I tease them gently, but exactly. Hey, like I always say, I would take a beer with these guys.
I'm just picking on Kent. I mean, after he said he was going to debate me a second time, and then backed out of it. He's kind of got that coming.
Yeah.
No ill intention. Just picking on him a little.
I'd love to see you have a beer with Ken Hovind, even though he claims he's never had one in his whole life.
Neither have I.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
well,
really.
There you go.
Yeah. So if we had a beer together, it would be our first beer. But I'd rather not.
Hey, that'd be interesting. It would be you and Ken Hovind each having your first beer and then debating. See, I want it. There we go.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, that Kent just makes the assumption that everybody everybody that's going to debate with him disagrees with him on certain things and has certain things not in common with him, and that's kind of stupid to use his own words.
Are you trying to say that not all atheists are Satan worshipping baby eaters?
Not all of them. No, some of them don't eat. Some of them don't eat Satan worshipping babies.
Okay, good. I was just checking. I thought we had a meeting on Tuesday. Okay, good.
That's just an Amy thing.
That's just a me thing. Darn. Okay.
Field. The universe that can very well impinge on your solar system. And that was a theory that everybody I mean, they couldn't argue with it. It's one thing to make a good system like Newton did, but if you have a defect as major as excluding the rest of the universe, wow, that says something. And Newton needed
since he paid attention to the math.
He needed absolute space.
Yes, exactly.
He
actually did the math.
Was that the universe it was infinite, and everything that we measured would be against the backdrop of this absolute frame of reference, the universe. So if that's the case, obviously the universe can't move.
What does Satan taste like?
And said, well, let's allow the universe.
You tell us.
What would happen in that case if we kept the Earth fixed and we allowed the universe to rotate around it? And he gave all the equations for it. You can read it in his
Ogre dropped out.
Mechanics.
Night Ogre.
Book about that.
Night Ogre.
And he explains how it can be done. And this is what intrigued Einstein.
Can I stop that for a moment?
Sure.
And just mention how ridiculous that is? Yeah, we could have the whole universe moving with relation to the Earth. The Earth could sit still and the whole universe would move in relation to it. We can do that. But the universe would not be rotating in relation to the Earth because that's not how momentum works. It would either all be going away from the Earth, or it would all be coming toward the Earth, or it would some coming toward it and some going away. But, it would all be moving in a straight line with relation to the Earth if you're just talking about it's just moving with relation to the Earth with nothing causing it to.
But that would mean that the Earth would be the center of gravity of the whole universe, and there's just nowhere near enough mass here to warp
the
gravity.
The way he's talking, it would have to be. He's basically saying that that it's the universe being moved by the Earth. How
Yeah,
how
there's
does
just
that
not
how does
nowhere
that work?
near enough mass.
Because he just got done admitting that the mass of the universe is bigger than the mass of our solar system. So how does he think the mass of one planet in our solar system, which he seems to also admit is smaller than the mass of our sun, is greater than the mass of the rest of the universe combined? Or
Yeah.
actually not greater than it, because he already admitted that, and yet making the rest of the universe move around it as if it's the center of everything. I mean, it just makes no sense. If the universe, I mean, we're looking at a situation where it appears to be that the universe is kind of doing this around the Earth, because it's the Earth doing that within the universe, and it takes a year to make one of those cycles. So, in his model, it wouldn't do this. It would just do this.
I just want you to know that it just looks like we made you dab.
Dab?
Yeah, it's a meme. It's like where you throw your arms up towards the side and tuck your head. It's like an anime pose. Dab, 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 dab.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. It's like a millennial Gen Z thing.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so we're almost.
Should I have had the ball?
Yes, you should. And
SpongeBob? You got SpongeBob over there, Dad?
SpongeBob.
I don't have the SpongeBob. No.
If I get to
get
debate
one.
Ken Hovind, I'm gonna buy a SpongeBob figure just for our debate. I want you to know that. And okay, so we're almost through his. We'll take a break through his, and then we'll do Fight the Flat Earths, and then we'll just go to open commentary and discussion.
Because he read Ernst Mach's work and he said, yeah, there is a theory of relativity that we must incorporate into our cosmological mechanics in order to see what is really the truth. Is the universe going around a fixed Earth, or is the fixed Earth rotating within a fixed universe? Which one is correct? So
neither, I don't think.
They had done all these experiments.
Yeah, neither.
In the 1800s, and they found, and I'm talking about the Arago experiment.
The universe is not a solid object.
The Airy experiment, George Bedell Airy in 1871. The Michelson-Morley experiment in 1887. And then they did it again in 1897. All these experiments were finding that the Earth wasn't moving, or at least they could be explained as the Earth not moving. And this was upsetting because ever since Copernicus, everybody believed that, no, the Earth is rotating and revolving around the sun. But, then you have to deal with Mach, and Mach not only gets out of the solar system, where the debate was whether the sun went around the Earth or the Earth went around the sun, he extends it to the universe itself and says, which is true, whether the universe goes around a fixed Earth or the Earth rotates within a fixed universe. Which one of those is true? So he expanded the argument.
Isn't that assuming a fixed universe in either case?
Yeah, I don't really understand the point he's trying to make.
A false dichotomy. That's the point he's trying to make. He's trying to say which is it? A fixed universe with this happening, or a fixed universe with that happening? So no matter which one you pick, you've chosen a fixed universe.
Well, like the one before, then he gave two options of a fixed Earth, like either a fixed Earth with everything rotating around, or a fixed Earth rotating around everything else. But the Earth isn't fixed either way.
Apparently, he can't understand the idea that the positions of things in space is dynamic. It changes.
And if he's not a flat earther, he seems to be knocking slightly Newton's theories. So does he believe in gravity? And if not, what the hell is holding everything up? Is he going to give me like a magnetic thing, just like the flat Earth?
I would not believe
in gravity.
I would not believe in gravity if I thought it worked the way he seems to think it works.
I mean, it sounds like he does. He just thinks it's miraculous or supernatural that God somehow makes the Earth the center of gravity, even though it doesn't have anywhere near enough mass.
Well, I mean, there's no equation he could make for gravity that works the way he explains it. You know,
It would have to be
because
supernatural.
because here's the thing, the Earth is attracted to the sun because of how close it is to the sun. You know, it's, or I should say, it's strongly attracted to the sun because it's close to the sun. If it was closer, it would be more
Kinky.
strongly attracted, and if it was farther away, it would be less strongly attracted. But the way he's explaining it, it makes it sound like the Earth should be just as strongly attracted to Alpha Centauri.
Aren't there some creationists, or maybe not creationists, or flat earthers, something they believe in a smaller sun or a closer sun, or
Yeah, some of them do.
Yeah.
They think the sun is
Small
the
and
same.
close.
He doesn't, but some of them, the flat earthers, think the moon and the sun are the same size. And
Yeah, as little as 300 miles away. And even then, a lot of them will tell you that it's impossible for light to travel 300 miles. So light couldn't even reach us from the sun on their model.
it would have to
Doesn't
be a
it-
miracle.
doesn't it feel good? Just the fact that we can go into a textbook and get these answers, and we don't have to all have our individual fighting beliefs as if these were divinely inspired by God.
I prefer to work it out myself because I don't really trust textbooks all that much. I mean, as a starting point, yes, but you know, I'm not one who just goes, I got an answer out of a textbook, therefore it's right.
That's true, but I'll make it more specific. Out of a scientific textbook, a modern scientific textbook.
Same thing. You know,
I mean, not
if I don't,
everybody has time to do
If
all
I-
their independent.
yeah, I was just
research
gonna say, if I don't have time,
experiments.
if I don't have time, or if I don't have the means, that you know, then I'll let it go until I do have the time and the means. But yeah, but even then, I will recognize the fact that this is something that I learned and I haven't verified for myself.
Well, I mean, that's like the John Maddox thing. Like, why haven't you taken the time to learn the intricacies of cell biology? You know, and not everybody can be an expert on everything. And even if I did, even if I spent 2 hours a day reading on cell biology and things like that, I would still never know more about that than the PhDs and the experts.
And
So I would still
Yeah,
never
and-
be qualified to just hand
and
wave
the
away
other-
their findings.
the other
Yeah, and if it's
problem
not
with
information
that
you need
is-
to use, if it's not information you need to use, then you don't really need to know. You know, you can know if you choose to, and you have the time, and you know, and until then, tentative information is good enough.
What was that?
Sorry,
Amy?
Amy.
No, I'm trying to remember. That's okay.
Sorry.
You
No,
lost your
you're
train of
fine.
thought, Amy.
Well,
Let
I
us
guess
know
we
when
were
you get
just
it back.
talking. We were just talking about empiricism. I think it's just good that we should all want to test everything out. Just, I guess it's just the George Carlin quote that comes to mind, which is like something to a tune of, tell someone that we went to the moon and they want to see evidence. Tell someone that we just had a second coat of paint and they'll touch it just to make sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and why do they really need to verify that anyway? You know, you tell someone you just got a fresh coat of paint, don't touch it because it'll damage the paint. Why do they need to
it's not-
verify that? They can just you know, take the, you know, you want the paint not to be touched right now, and that should be good enough, unless they've got some serious reason to touch the paint other than finding out whether or not it's wet. Because if you
I mean,
hadn't
it's
said
like-
that's wet paint, would they be touching it to find out if it was?
No, I mean, it's like if you tell Amy not to do something, it's going to automatically make her want to do it. So
Mm.
yeah, and
Just-
actually,
yeah.
I'll modify that quote. I think he was actually saying, tell people that there's not an almighty, powerful creator of the universe, and they'll believe it without a wink. Tell people that
Yeah.
you just had a second coat of paint, and they'll want to touch it to make sure.
I remember George Carlin saying just that.
That's closer to the original quote, anyway.
Yeah.
And okay, let's.
I
let's
think
go
that
back.
was I think that was pretty accurate.
Space. So, but they still struggled because they wanted to believe that the Earth was moving. That was the paradigm that they wanted to follow. But they had all these difficulties. How do we prove it? So they did this experiment in 1887, Michelson Morley, and they were looking for a 30 kilometer per second speed of the Earth around the sun, and they couldn't find it. And they did this experiment probably about 50 times from 1881 to 1930, and they kept finding the same result. We can't get 30 kilometers per second out of this experiment for the Earth going around the sun. They did another experiment where they tried for the rotation of the Earth in 1925. That was the Michelson-Gale experiment. And they found a full sidereal rotation of the Earth in that experiment. And so they knew that, wow, we're getting a full daily rotation of the Earth using the same interferometer experiment that we used in 1887, but that for an interferometer couldn't show us that the Earth was going around the sun. So we have two experiments using the same principles, and yet giving us two different stories. One says that the Earth is not going around the sun.
And I would hate for a book to have two stories of the same event, because that would be confusing to me, especially if they had two wildly different interpretations. Just saying.
I was just trying to write something in chat, and it went wrong, and I'm trying to delete it, and it's not letting me.
That's okay. I'll get rid of it.
Did I get it this time? I'm not sure if I got it.
3 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds every day.
Yes, you did.
So how can that be?
Oh, okay.
So now we had further difficulty. Then Einstein, he tried to explain all this away by his special relativity theory. And he says, okay, one way to explain Michelson's 1887 experiment is to say that.
Yeah, this is another, once again, wow moment for me. He's about to claim, in my opinion, special and general relativity prove that the Earth is the center of the universe.
There is no ether. There is no Earth going through the ether. Therefore, it's not going to impede the light beam speed. And therefore, any result we get is not going to be applicable because there really is no ether. Okay. And in place of that, he comes up with special relativity, which says, okay, what really happened in the Michelson experiment is the length contracted, the length of the arm of Michelson's interferometer contracted, and they call that length contraction today. What else happened? Well, the time dilated. So, because if you contract the length, you're going to have to increase the time that the object travels. So this all became part of special relativity. Everybody loved it, and we found an answer to Michelson's experiment.
I'll look in the corner there, Amy. That's right up your alley.
All right. 10 years later, he comes up with his theory of general relativity. Why? Well, because the special relativity was an idealistic theory that really couldn't be applicable anywhere because everywhere you look in the universe, there's gravity and inertial forces. But special relativity didn't include those. So how is that theory going to explain anything, basically? Because the whole world is full of gravity, the whole universe.
It explains exactly what it was designed to explain.
Gravity, and when he did,
yeah, I agree.
In his general theory of relativity,
I don't know what he's talking about here.
At the end of all the equations, he comes out and says, yeah, it is possible for either the universe to rotate around a fixed Earth or for the Earth to rotate.
I mean, it sounds like he's trying to segue onto the Newton
he just
being
said
wrong.
Wait, he just said who said that? Who, after all that, he said who said that the universe can do that?
Either Newton or Einstein. One or the
Einstein
other.
is saying the whole universe could be rotating around the Earth?
I believe he's probably misquoting horribly Einstein. Because, what he's about to say
if he's quoting anyone, he's either misquoting them or it's a crazy person.
No, I think he's trying to take advantage of how Einstein found some problems in Newton's equations that on the macro scale that Newton didn't take into account, so Einstein fixed
Well,
those. But
that could be, yeah. I don't know. That I missed something there. Maybe he was saying that Einstein said in order for Newton's equations to work, the universe would have to be, or maybe he was saying on a geocentric model, the universe would have to be doing that, or on a flat Earth model. I don't really know because, like I said, I must have missed something because that was too much crazy for my brain to absorb.
I was
in
gonna
one
say,
blow.
let me tell you, Donald, it's probably not you. Let me just tell you. But yeah.
If there was any sense in that, it got knocked right out by the nonsense that it was packaged in.
And I think the other James, the lovely James Coons, shout out to James Coons. Go check out Modern Day Debate, is I think about to warn the 1 minute mark. And woohoo, I have found, generally speaking, and I guess Thea should do this too, but Thea's love taking that full 10 minutes. I like taking my time too, though. So I mean, I can't totally shit on him for this, but you can tell that this is their thing. This is their shtick. This is what they yeah.
What they've wasted a life on. Oh, by the way, Robert X says if you don't want to see evidence, then you won't find it. I want to expand on that. If you don't want to see evidence, then you probably won't find it. And if you don't want to see evidence and you do find it, you'll probably deny it.
Yeah. And another problem, I will say, that we always seem to have a problem with Einstein and just poetic language. It's just like the people that try and claim that our founders were like these hyper Christians when they were deists. A lot of the people that they claim to be religious in their lives seem to want to keep the fundies at arm's length themselves, if not outright go against them.
Mm.
General relativity teaches covariance and coequivalence. And there have been many scientists like Barber and Bertotti, Hans Thering, and Joseph Lenz who have written papers showing, if you use Einstein's field equations, you have to admit that either one of those universes is possible. That is an Earth rotating in a fixed universe or a universe going around a fixed Earth. Either one is possible under general relativity. So I just take this evidence and I run with it. And I say, there is no proof mathematical, scientific proof that you can show that the Earth is rotating or revolving. And I'm also
We're basically there. It took him how long to get to his actual argument?
Well, we're almost an hour into the stream, so yeah.
And I mean, it's just crazy, Yeah.
We might as well use the same argument for a ballet dancer or an ice skater or a roller skater or anybody else, kids on a merry-go-round for that matter, by his way of reckoning, as I understand it, you have no way to prove that you're the one spinning. It must be the whole universe spinning around you.
Can I tell you the subtle difference? If you go to a science teacher and you're like, "Hi, Billy, what do you want to learn?" And the boy or girl is like, "I want to learn how to I want to know the velocity that I'm throwing this ball. I want to figure out how I could calculate it." They will give you an equation to figure out the velocity of the ball. They do not need to sit there and give you a science history lesson like how we came to know what we know and epistemology and all this shit. They will tell you the answer to your question.
It is helpful. It is interesting to know how science came to know what they know, but
it is.
Yes,
it is.
But it's a red herring.
It's only useful if you actually understand what science has taught us.
But
if you only understand how it got there, then that doesn't do any good at all, because got where? And by the way, as far as the spinning I was talking about, if you got a dancer spinning around, I have been a professional dancer, by the way. If you spin with maybe one arm and both 2 arms and 1 leg spread out as wide as you can, and then while you're spinning, you pull those in, you'll spin faster. There are reasons why you'll spin faster, and there is math to figure those things out. If you're on a merry-go-round and the thing is spinning really fast and you jump off, you don't go flying in a circle around the merry-go-round. You go flying in a straight line. You know, the idea that the universe is rotating around the Earth assumes that the universe is like a solid object, that everything is tied to everything. It's like the firmament is rotating around the Earth. It's a ridiculous concept. And you know, if you're talking about just saying things going in a straight line, okay, momentum says, you know, if it's going in a straight line and nothing, you know, makes it deviate from that straight line, it'll keep going in a straight line. Gravity is one of those things that can make it deviate by a predictable amount. But he's treating it as if you've got a ball on a string and you're spinning that ball around you like this and just going around and around and around and around. If you cut the string, the ball will keep going around you.
Yeah.
Which is not how reality works.
Also, do you notice it may be a face palm. It probably just him fixing his glasses, but it looks like half a face palm.
Like half a face palm, yeah.
And okay, we are almost done. Let's go with history lesson. I mean, I do like learning about the back and forth and one model outwinning the other model, and it's just like I said, it just feels like
this is
obfuscation, and that'll be my fancy word for another word.
Is this still his opening statement?
We have we've been just doing his open. Yeah, we're only doing the opening statement. So we're, and it's just the end of it.
We've gotten through 27 seconds so far. Is that what that is?
27 minutes.
Oh, minutes. Okay. It looks like a period in between there on my screen. I can't see it's a colon.
Time dilation's not that strong.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I'm bad with time. I didn't seem right, but I had to ask.
Also, I'm very excited for this debate over here, the trans debate. I'm very excited for that. I guess next week, which is probably still next week if you're, because I think this is recent. So we're on February 8th, probably this week.
But what is the debate about? It's just
that's what I was going to ask. What is a trans debate?
I'm not 100% sure if
That seems like only one side. There's just a trans debate.
I believe that it's just, you know, are transgenders a thing, or are they legitimate, or something towards that.
I thought something got left out. Like it was maybe a debate between someone who is trans and someone who was a dentist. You know, a transcendental debate.
But sometimes the titles are hard. I mean, I understand with the going back and forth, because sometimes the opponent wants something different. Because just like how Kent was, I assure you, he wanted, like I said, he wants the wording kind of gives the person, one person or another, home turf. And
there's people in that trans debate chat now already, and it's 2 days.
There have been people in there for a week.
Well,
I haven't been debating, but I've seen it. Yeah.
I hate to put this so bluntly, but if it's a debate on whether or not there's such a thing as a trans person, and one of the people in the debate is a trans person and says there are, that person won already.
Well,
that is very true.
I don't think that's going to be the title, but yeah, that would be a problem.
I would. That's one of the rare political debates. I think transgender. Look for that coming up. Skeptic and Ranting podcast.
Their opening statement would be like, "I won."
Dive. Exactly. But it's the rare political debate that I would do, because I try and edge away from politics. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out to James because he's awesome, and we'll go
thank you, Amy,
into this.
But I know you meant James Coons.
I know both Jameses are awesome. Exactly.
Also including, stellar parallax, stellar aberration, all those things that they used to use to try to prove that the Earth was moving around the sun, they've all been disproven. And that can be shown very easily.
What?
So I yield my time.
Thank you very much.
He yields.
Yeah, apparently he's got time left.
Okay,
At least he thought so.
They think you need a sub, Amy. They think that's they think
I
that's
know.
Yeah, Amy needs some subs. Anybody out there can, give her a sub, or just you'd have to go out to her channel page to do that.
And she thought
Just give
I
her,
was talking about you guys eating.
just give her a thumbs up instead. Somebody in the chat hasn't given her a thumbs up yet, so.
Woohoo! That's right. We love all of you in chat. We thank you for sitting with us as we go through, like I said, this, we'll say, interesting hypothesis.
Tries to navigate through insanity. Yeah.
Exactly. And okay.
Yes, it's a crazy ride.
This was the halfway point for his opener. What did you guys think of his opener? Exactly, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought of it. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
That pretty much sums it up.
Very little substance, like the Bible. It's like a lot of words, but not much meaning.
Yeah, I really think it is a very, very poor argument from authority. Like there are these famous people who said things, and we'll just ignore the famous people who disagreed with them and say, these ones that I pointed out are on my side must make me right. I could be wrong, but that's really what it seems like he's going for there. Like famous dead people make me right because some of them agreed with me.
Yeah, he also seemed to muddy the water. It seemed like he was going back and forth whether the quote-unquote famous scientists were agreeing with him or not agreeing with him. Like, I came away not quite sure.
I think he was basically saying, like this one agreed and this one disagreed and this one agreed and this one disagreed. And that's what I said. It seems to me like he's basically trying to say, well, because some famous scientists in the past agreed with me, I must be right. I could be wrong, but that's basically what I got out of it. Like, argument from authority. Whoever had an answer first must have had the right answer, and anybody who tried to correct it or improve on it afterward, apparently they were wrong.
Yeah, and I could be straw manning him here, but what it sounded like to me was
trying not to.
No, I understand. Is that he gave us a legitimate, for the most part, scientific history lesson, and then he gave us some, I would say, questionable back and forth about Newton, and then some questionable back and forth about special and general relativity, and then he ended it with his actual argument, and then that was it.
And some dead wrong physics as well.
Yes. Well, it got fuzzier the longer he got on. The longer that he spoke, the more like speaking about space, the more like we floated off into space.
It really seemed to me that and I could be wrong. And like I said, I really don't want to straw man him, but it really seemed to me like when he's talking about the universe, what he means is the firmament. And it's confusing because he admits that the rest of the universe is heavier than the solar system, or at least that scientists believed it to be. And yet seems to, think that that's not the case. Like there's just this, thin shell out there with a projection on it or something. And that, that's the universe. And, we're just inside of it. Like it's the universe around us, as who was it that put it that way? Quoted them on the universe around us. Someone in the chat mentioned that earlier. Ian, I think it was Ian said that. And it's like the universe isn't specifically around us. It's around like everything that we know of. And sure, there might be something out there it's not around, but we can't see that far.
And I would love to know the mechanism by just which we are standing still in this one place and the entire universe. I know he went
Yeah,
kind of
well,
back and forth. Solar
well, here's the
system,
thing.
universe.
Well, here's the thing. By the model he's using, if you can call it a model, we are not part of the universe because he's basically saying the whole universe is doing this, and we are not.
But Donald, don't you understand? We're special.
Yeah, and not part of the universe apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
has, he did use. I think he used the phrase, the rest of the universe, but in that sense, when he talks about the universe going in circles around the Earth, he's not saying, the rest of the universe is going in circles around the Earth. He's saying the universe is going in circles around the Earth, which means we're not part of it. And even if what he meant is the rest of the universe is encircling the Earth, why is the Earth the only thing in the universe not moving? What is there about the Earth that makes it stand still when some force is moving every other star and planet and rock and piece of dust out there, and it's all being moved in sync with each other over vast distances without even a delay based on like the speed of light or something. This whole thing in sync, and one planet refuses to go along with the dance.
Yeah, and
Doesn't make any sense to me.
It reminds me once again of just theology. It's just trying to make us feel special. And if we are special, I would like to know a model, or I would like to know how it make it work.
Heck, I don't know. I mean, if I thought that was the way the universe worked, I'd feel more left out than special. Like, hey, how come the whole rest of the universe gets to be on this, this annual circular dance, and we weren't invited?
Yeah. I'm trying to see
the only thing in the whole universe that isn't in on the party. It's like, really?
Yep.
Anyway, that's my rant. The title did say skeptic and ranting, so yeah, I got the skeptic going all the time. There's my rant.
No, 100%. In fact, I basically call a lot of these titles ranting because a lot of the motivation for me getting into the skeptic community is you just see all these different fundamentalists trying to put their fingers into different buckets of their fingers into culture and society, whether that's tapping on the door and offering you a Bible, or whether that's trying to get their person into Congress and get elected. It seems like it was time to push back a little. Nicely, civil.
This sort of reminds me of I don't remember the exact wording, but or what the title was off the top of my head, but I think it was something to the effect of if atheists were like theists, and they've got it's a Dark Matter 2525 cartoon, and he's got like people knocking on the door, somebody answers their door, and like they're like and I'm paraphrasing, but like have you heard the good news that there is no God? And they get the door slammed in their face.
And so I feel bad. I was waiting for James to come back. He might have had a problem with the connection, but one of the common themes that I always notice with all of these type of, whether it's creationism, flat earth, geocentrism, it's always leads back to a conspiracy. It's always our model. It was very early on. I feel like it was in his first sentence, but he had like a very politically correct way of saying it that like if it went through anyone's ears, I feel like I had to watch it once or twice to get it. It was very much like, people expect the accepted models, but some people are asking questions and not always able to get their views told in the mainstream. It always comes to sort of...
That's like that list of scientists who signed a paper saying that they're skeptical of how is it? They're skeptical of the claim that um, random mutations and natural selection explains all of the diversity of life. As like they're skeptical that that's the whole explanation, which of course they should be skeptical of anything being the whole explanation because we live in a complex universe. No matter what whole explanation they're being given, yeah, they should be skeptical. That's the way a scientist is supposed to be. But I don't know if you ever heard of Project Steve. Project Steve was made in response to that, where they got a bunch of scientists named Steve or Stephen or Stephanie or anything that could be called, referred to colloquially as Steve, to sign something saying, that I forget the exact wording, but basically saying that they trust the modern theory of evolution. It's pretty much the opposite of what that other one was trying to make it look like. Scientists were saying, which they weren't even saying. They were just saying, "Yeah, we're skeptical."
Yeah,
And Project Steve had got more signatures than than the one saying they were skeptical.
And just to interrupt for a second, I want to say both hi to Aunt Jer, Doc Fearsome, and Titan Uranus. Welcome, guys.
Oh, we got the whole crew in here.
We got the whole crew. And we just found out, apparently, that we're the center of the universe. See?
What did I miss?
Amazing. So the point I'm glad you just came back, is that early on, I don't know if you picked up on it, James, because it was very
firmament
subtle.
goes in circles around the earth.
Dun dun dun. But he's kind of led on to the fact that it was a conspiracy, that he was just both asking questions and that his questions may not be entering into the community's subconscious anymore. So he kind of had a politically correct way of saying it, but to me it was the same kind of just I'm asking questions type of thing that conspiracy theorists give me.
Yeah, but I think he's definitely doing more than that. He's not just asking questions. He's saying that well understood scientific theories are invalid, not true. So that's a little bit of a jump.
And you know what, Robert? I'm gonna make Titan Uranus a mod, and he's the wonderful Discord handler, so he'll get the link in chat.
He's gonna be
or please, if you do not
Discord
mind,
czar.
Our Discord czar. So give me 1 second, and it shall be. There you go, Titan. And I'll enter any command that I have to in there. And okay, and so we're moving on down. He brought up early on also that he wants to see things. He is one of these guys that he wants to see things, which was kind of a point. And I understand which brings us back to our the paint touching point.
I am going to post a link, by the way, to that video I just referenced.
Sure. And let's see.
Titan, yes, absolutely.
Yes, I think everyone should go as far into Titan Uranus as we can, and like and subscribe. I know it's low hanging fruit, but I'm here all night, folks.
Hey,
tip your waitress. I'm trying to think. Any other points
just to trigger Yahweh just a little bit more,
Yes. Another point I wanted to bring up just while we're rounding up his intro.
Yes, you do know how Yahweh gets triggered by that fruit.
By fruit, by anuses,
by towers. Apparently, everything triggers this guy. But the point that he makes contrasts himself from a flat earther. You can hear that he's sympathetic, but he doesn't believe in it. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I guess it's just a bridge too far for him,
I'm gonna try and find
like
his
Ken Hovind,
website.
There's even some things he won't touch, like flat eartherism.
Even flat eartherism, geocentric.
There we go. Mhm.
And give me 1 second,
Remember our
guys,
good
while I
friend
find.
Otangelo. He was last time Robert Sejenis had debate. He was versus Theophilus on this very topic. Otangelo went and was gloating about the defeat that Theophilus took at the hands of Robert Sejenis in that debate.
And yeah, Robert was
So I guess
gloating
he is
apparently.
a geocentrist.
At a certain point, I think he was gloating about the Leo debate. So I think he has. I like Leo. I've only talked with him a few
I like
times,
Leo. He's
but
a good guy.
yeah, I agreed with most of what he was saying.
Very smart. Knows a lot about physics, biology.
Yes, and so I'm just bringing up in a second his website just because I want to show his post on evolution, because he almost doesn't talk about religion at all in this debate except to criticize it. So I'm gonna bring that up now. And so this is him basically writing an article, I guess, critiquing Catholicism or critiquing the upper echelons of Catholicism, because it sounds like they're trying to rebrand kind. They're trying to like make a middle ground. This person probably either believes in evolution and
You
are
mean they're gonna
saying
make
that
Even they're going to make that word more vague than it already is in that context.
yes, they're basically saying kinds can change, so evolution is true. And I mean, Dr. Robert, feel free to come on our the podcast anytime.
Yeah, well,
From what I
well,
understand,
there was a pope that declared evolution true a long time ago, and so far, most people in most Christian religions, including Catholicism, have still not, acknowledged that. So
I think
there's that.
most Catholics are okay with evolution. It's not really a big deal for most of them.
Yeah.
That's
The Catholics in general, a lot of them have accepted it. I'm just saying, all of them included. Well, in this country anyway, it still seems to be that the majority haven't caught up yet. It's kind of like, well, the Bible hasn't changed what it says yet, so.
And we have Jamie in the house. Jamie, if you would like, I'll send the link in the channel if you'd like to join us. And
is Jamie a geocentrist?
I don't know. He may be. Come on board. And so what he is basically saying is not only is this wrong, but really the most interesting paragraph is him explaining himself here. The cardinal admits the tradition of the church for more than 1800 years believe the different kinds are unchangeable. That's really the key thing of his thesis. Kinds are unchangeable. Accordingly, any new ideas stipulating the kinds are changeable, so, the Catholic Church's middle ground to evolution here, when need proof to replace the prior belief. The problem is this Pokemon name, fantastic, is that there is no proof. I'm sorry, I'm sure he's a cool guy. There is only theory and conjecture, and comes mainly from atheistic scientists who are bent on evolution and have no respect for scripture and the tradition of the church. So leave
off the bent on evolution part, and he's pretty much got it. Why should we have respect for that?
Well, I give Catholic Church both love and hate. In some ways, I love making jokes because they kind of shuffled pedophiles around for a little while. On the other hand, they preach a lot more science, generally speaking, because I don't want to stereotype the Protestants too much either, but they generally seem to, statistically speaking, accept science more. So it's a give and pull. But I just wanted to show that underneath it all, religion.
That is the church evolving, by the way.
Well, the
Yes,
Catholic Church
exactly.
doesn't have to. They don't base their authority only on the Bible. They base it on other things. So they have
Yeah.
a little more license in their own mind to take things figuratively and metaphorically, and they believe they have the authority to do that because they derive their authority from tradition. Whereas
they've declared that they have the authority to do that, and the thing is, they had to because they knew a long time ago, and they still understand it now. Some of these smaller religions still don't get it. Some of the bigger religions get it, and they're still hiding it from their members. But the thing is, if a religion doesn't evolve, it will go extinct.
Right. And so they believe they have the authority to make those determinations. So they don't really care whether you take Genesis literally or metaphorically. It's all the same to them. It really doesn't.
As long as they don't go extinct.
Affect them. But then you even see in the modern era, the Catholic Church is having this, I wouldn't say civil war, but there are certainly breakaway factions who want to hold to those more traditional doctrines that before the church had a major evolution in the late 1960s, where they modernized basically most of the liturgy and a lot of their doctrines. And there are still groups today who believe that was illegitimate or improper. They don't go along with that. But it's evolving like everything else.
And if I could point out to you guys once again, we know who the target is. I just lost it because I got so big. Right here. It's because of atheistic scientists. I mean, if that doesn't say it.
Yeah, meaning scientists who aren't putting God in front of science. In other words, actual scientists.
But did you hear religion in that intro? Because that's the trend. He doesn't talk about religion really at all for the rest of the debate either. So it just, I don't know.
Very
it seems dishonest because it's my common theme with all these flat earthers, with all these geocentrism. It's always ties back to the Bible. And a lot of times, the creationists are going to, even though they believe the world is 6,000 years old, they want to talk about genetics. He thinks that the entire universe revolves around the earth, but he wants to talk about the history of science. Is it not a bait and switch? Am I not feeling the snake oil?
They don't want to put all their cards on the table because then they don't want people to think, oh, they're just religious kooks and then dismiss it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because then who would believe them, right? But it's not. They want to convert people from a scientific, technical reason, but they do not believe because of a scientific or technical reason.
I mean, it's like somebody like Hovind. At least he's honest. He comes right out the gate and tells you why he believes what he believes because it's his religious belief. And
I don't see that as honest the way he's presenting it. I mean,
he doesn't try to hide it.
And I don't think he really believes what he claims to believe either. So there's that.
Yeah, probably not. But at least he doesn't try to hide it he doesn't try to pretend like he's coming at it from a secular
what he does do is try to hide the fact that there is another way of being. In other words, the only time he'll bring up the fact that his point of view is a religious one is when it is tagged to, and so is yours.
Right, and that's not a fair comparison. So
yeah. But that's the only time he'll do it. He won't even admit that his point of view is religious unless he's in the process of trying to convince other people that your point of view is religious.
Yes, but in fact, what I will find, and I will be generous because they always seem surprised, whether it is a sincere surprise or not, but it's always science, history, science, history, genetics, all this stuff. And then you just ask like a single question about religion, and it just seems to be a popping moment. It just seems to be like, oh, of course. Of course I'm doing this because those stupid evolutionists are trying to get God out of our classrooms. And
Yeah.
you're like, what? What?
It's like some of the flat
science,
earth.
Newton.
Then you ask
Yeah.
him like, "Oh, are you religious?" And that happened in one debate where they didn't talk about religion the whole debate. Then somebody got to him in the Q&A, and then they had to come out and say, "Yes, I'm doing this because it's a religious belief."
Yeah, I have. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but I have ran into flat earthers who will, on the surface, try to make out like they're not religious people and they're not doing it for religious reasons, but then will admit later that that's really what it's all about.
Also,
You know,
unrelated note, we talked about this
in other words,
before.
when they can't convert you to their religion by fooling you into it, by trying to convince you that the earth is flat and therefore the Bible's right, they'll just skip straight to telling you that you're going to go to hell if you don't accept the Bible, and doesn't really matter whether you believe the earth is flat or not, just whether or not you're going to go to hell for not believing nonsense.
You're going to go to hell, Donald. That's it.
And so this is unrelated, but just because he's here, Stripper Liquor, you were one of the first people that I wanted to make a mod, I think like a few days ago. So congratulations, along with Jim Brenton. I don't know if he's even still watching. You're the first
Was he in there
theist.
before?
He was in us earlier. I feel like he deserved it, even if he didn't ask for it. I feel like he is the first theist that has really deserved it here. If anyone else is watching, if you feel like you can just help the community here and you feel like you want to be a mod, just ask me and I'll do it. That's it. I'm gonna slow down in a month or so and make that a Patreon only thing, but I wanted a cool crew of mods and I want to thank all of my awesome mods out there. So hold on, Stripper Liquor. There you go. Congratulations,
we don't want a tightly
guys.
modded chat. We like to let most of it just go.
Exactly. I want everyone, just like I really don't want to mute people here. We want everyone to be able to do their freedom of speech, but we also don't want too much poo being flung, or we don't want the dumpster fire being lit.
No hate speech or malicious constant attacking or derogatory attacks. That's just not cool.
Exactly. And okay, so I just wanted to point that out, that it really, I mean, that's like a target. That's the bullseye right there. It's atheist scientist.
That's the threat.
And trying to see any more notes in a second. We'll go through Fight the Flat Earth's opening. I think it'll be much faster, and but he'll still have some good valid points, so we can go over. I'm trying to see. Yes, trying to see. We already went into evolution, always religion, science, history. I originally had he disagreed with special relativity and general relativity, but the more that he went on to the conversation, he kind of muddied that water to me, whether he was agreeing with it, disagreeing with it, saying it agreed with him.
I think he agrees with it when it agrees with him and disagrees with it when it disagrees with him.
Indeed. And then the last thing I think I had was, it wasn't clear to me whether he believed in the ether or not. It seemed I
think he does. I think that comes up later in the debate. Yeah, in the open discussion, I heard them mention that. But
I mean, that is a Aristotelian idea. I know they like quoting old history, and I get it that he was a smart guy. Still did get a lot of things wrong, but it's just like how Newton was a smart guy. We accepted Newtonian physics. We didn't accept alchemy, but there's good reasons for both of those things.
But then we did have to go and update Newtonian physics with special and general relativity.
100%.
Is the firmament made of frozen ether?
I don't know. What does the ether taste like? We're asking the deep questions. Earlier, we wanted to know what Satan tastes like. Now we need to know what the ether tastes like.
I think it tastes like meteors.
Well, they thought that light had to travel through a medium; it couldn't go through it, so there had to be something there, you know.
Well, and there still might be, but the thing is, the ether with the properties that it was proposed the ether had has been disproved. Could there be something with different properties that serves the same function they were looking for? Yeah, sure, that's still possible. We haven't disproven that yet, but it wouldn't have the
to be some
properties
type
that were
of
originally proposed.
quantum field or something like that.
Yeah, and it would have to be something that that behaves like something that space behaves like, which the space doesn't behave like the ether as it was originally proposed, and that's the whole thing. Science makes predictions based on models. You make a model and you make a prediction based on your model, and if your prediction comes true, then your model hasn't been disproven. It also hasn't been proven. It's been partially substantiated, but you never get it proven that way. You just fail to get it disproven, and you have to try things that would disprove it if you're wrong. And that's what they did. They tried stuff that would disprove the ether model, and it got disproven.
Well,
but that doesn't mean the entire concept was wrong. There might be something there, that just doesn't follow those properties.
And it doesn't mean they were stupid or silly. They all, at least with Aristotle, he tried to put forth an actual educated guess, a hypothesis. He was making models. I wish they would put forth something current, something new. It's not like we're sitting there with a shield trying to hold them back. I want to know who these paid scientists are that aren't accepting their articles.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. But this idea that the whole universe, except for Earth, is all moving in unison, doing this, annual dance out there, basically not only goes back to the old ether model, but it's basically frozen ether. So that's why I said is the firmament made of frozen ether, because that seems to be kind of what he's proposing, that we've got this solid universe out there that everything moves in sync and there's no light speed involved or anything, which just defies everything we know about physics.
Nope. God just does it. That's it. That's all you need to know. It's God.
Well, it doesn't defy what we know about magic, but then again, nothing can.
Guys, don't you know angels are holding us up? Come on.
Yes,
It all makes
I
sense
know.
now.
I know. I've been waiting in line so long, and those angels are still holding me up.
Exactly.
I mean, we already went through Genesis, Amy. They already told you exactly how God did everything. What more do you need to know?
I know. You can find
Useful
all our
stuff.
answers that one book. Why are we
Useful-
even looking in?
Useful
gonna
stuff.
say?
That's what more I need to know.
I know. Why are we even looking in scientific textbooks or doing experiments in the field when we have the Babel?
Waste of time.
Come on.
Waste of
I
time.
know. Waste of time.
Yes.
You could
Fully
that time
babble.
would be much better spent praising God.
Praise all
the time.
Exactly.
You should only stop praising God long enough to eat, sleep, and breathe, and that's it.
Yeah. In fact, I have a modification to your our daydream here about us eventually being able to worship King John Yahweh. Is
Forever?
that I am forever and ever. I imagine a counter that is just constantly going every time we bow or say praise, and so it's just and you just watch that counter go up infinitely. And
I mean,
Yeah,
you
no,
would just
praise,
get up
praise,
and then
praise.
fall on your face, then get up, then fall on your face again, then get up,
I know.
then fall on your face again.
Who knew Genesis had so much slapstick humor? Just Sarah was
Peradventure.
falling. I know, peradventure.
Yeah.
Sarah was falling on her face everywhere, laughing at God.
Yeah, and all the guys kept falling on God's face.
Kinky.
God
now
was
we're
sitting
getting
there
somewhere.
munching popcorn or munching on foreskins while Sodom was burning.
Yeah, God was munching foreskin popcorn.
But he needed some salt, so he found a source for that.
Exactly. We didn't get any pepper, but we did get a little bit of salt.
He
Salty
showed them what
foreskins.
women are good. He showed them what women are good for. You can make salt out of them.
Yes. Look, when you're done begatting, what else are you gonna do? And okay, are you guys ready for Fight the Flat Earth's intro?
Peradventure.
Peradventure.
We will switch it over for the opening statement from Fight the Flat Earth as well. The floor is all yours, Craig.
Thank you, James. Thanks for that, Robert.
Is that Pellegrino water?
So when James asked me about this debate, honestly, it was the first time I'd ever researched geocentricity, and what I found was kind of disappointing. I found the things that I find when I'm talking about flat Earth, just claims of conspiracy that millions and billions of people have to be part of, misunderstanding of basic fundamentals of physics, cherry picking, twisting to fit a narrative, complete and utter lack of any evidence for a geocentric universe. So why do people believe that? I mean, I don't know. Frankly, I think it's ridiculous, and I think it stems from a lack of scientific knowledge, and a lot of it is for religious reasons. Now, I've got no interest in debating anything religious. I don't think it's relevant in a discussion about the nature of the universe. So I'm going to stick to actual facts. And the basic of a geocentric universe is it has to demonstrate two things to make sure it's valid. And the two things is that Earth is stationary in space, and the Earth doesn't rotate around its own axis. Well, unfortunately for Bob, there's another Bob that demonstrated that this isn't a problem.
The builder?
The
builder.
That's
okay.
Bob Nodell from Globebusters.
Okay. Is he?
Yeah, he went out and he spent $20,000 on a high-tech ring laser gyroscope. He was trying to prove that the Earth had no motion, but yeah, that didn't work out for him.
Interesting.
It has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to drift. In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth. One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Bob. And
Yeah.
I know Bob is a flat earther.
Very precisely what it would
Thanks,
be.
Bob.
Bob in this case showed
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
something that we already knew, and that is that every single fiber optic and ring laser interferometric gyroscope on the planet registers a 15 degree rotation per hour, no matter where you
1
are.
degree every 4 minutes.
Interestingly, it doesn't only register a 15 degree per hour drift, it also registers a 1 degree per day drift in 2 dimensions. And this represents the Earth's orbit around the sun in an ecliptic plane. So the fact that these things can easily measure, and the way that ring laser gyroscopes and fiber optic gyroscopes are constructed is that they can't see the outside world. They don't know what is moving, if the stars are moving, so they can't register any of that. They use light and the speed of light to do what they do, and light isn't affected by any electromagnetic waves or anything like that, so couldn't be any imaginary aether or anything. So there is only one conclusion you can get from things like gyroscopes, fiber optic gyroscopes, ring laser gyroscopes showing a drift, is that they are physically on something that is moving. I can demonstrate this further in the back and forth with gyroscope and putting it on a globe and showing how it moves, but they simply show that the Earth rotates, not only on its own axis, but also around the sun. Every pilot in the world knows this. Every modern plane has 3 of them that as soon as the pilot turns on, they have to register the rotation of the Earth to figure out their location and to be able to plot their position correctly. Gyroscopes like this are fundamental parts of modern aviation, and our understanding of them makes sure that the pilots can get where they're going and not crash into mountains and stuff. So yeah, other bits of evidence that the Earth's rotating is effects that we should have on a rotating body like the Earth that has a circumference of 25,000 miles and rotates at 15 degrees per hour. We should get effects like Coriolis and Eötvös effect, which vary depending on the latitude. This can be demonstrated with the simple swinging of a pendulum. With a simple swinging of a pendulum, depending on your latitude, it will drift a different amount. Now, you can actually use the amount a pendulum drifts to calculate your latitude on the Earth. And this is an effect that is predicted by a rotating planet. There is no explanation on a stationary Earth why you would be able to induce a precession on a pendulum that varies with your latitude. No explanation at all. The only explanation is that it matches the prediction of a heliocentric hypothesis, and that is that the Earth is rotating. You want to follow the scientific method, you look for an observation, you get a hypothesis, you make a prediction, and then you test it. And when you do that, you find the Earth is rotating. The Otvos effect is something that is easily experienced as well. If you are traveling with the Earth's rotation, you increase your centrifugal acceleration, which actually reduces your weight. This can be demonstrated by taking a known calibration weight on a plane and measuring the change as you are traveling east to west or west to east. Another YouTuber, a pilot called Wolfie, did this. And what he found was as he was traveling east to west, as expected, the weight increased, and traveling west to the other direction, the weight decreased because it changed the centrifugal acceleration. These are things that we expect to happen, we predict to happen, and do happen because of the Earth rotating. So very much like a belief in flat Earth, natural observations in the universe alone debunk the notion of a geocentric universe. I'm going to quickly go through some of the basic observations now that we can look at. The first one is retrograde motion of planets. So, first one is the sun. Now, to say that the seasons on the Earth are geocentric, it is caused by the sun moving up and down around the Earth. So this presents a problem in the fact that we can always see the same face of the sun. For this to make sense in reality, it would mean that the sun would have to change its axial tilt. If the sun were to move up, it would mean for us to match it to what happens in reality, that the sun would have to tilt towards us like this. So this is what we would expect in a geocentric universe. But there's no reason why the sun's tilt would change. And also, not only would it have to change throughout the seasons, but every day it would have to process to be the exact opposite so that we always see what we see in reality. This isn't what we see, but this is what we would see if there was a geocentric universe with the sun rotating around us. We simply don't see this. It doesn't match reality. Therefore, it can't be an explanation for what's going on. Seasons. Seasons alone are an issue because the way that they say the sun goes up to the summer solstice and down to the winter solstice doesn't make sense with how we have seasons based on the fact that the Earth has an axial tilt. The seasons are actually caused by a change in energy given to the sun based on how much of it is facing the sun. And this motion doesn't explain the seasons that we get on the northern and southern hemisphere. Another issue is the retrograde motion of the planets. So if we look at Mars, around 2012, this is what happened, right? If the Earth was geocentric, then the planet should have a simple straight orbit around us. And if we look at Mars throughout the year, this is what we should observe. But what we saw in 2011, 2012 was that between October and November, it just went in a straight line. But after that, heading towards January in 2012, it slowed down and went the other way until around April the 11th, when it then slowed down and went the other way again. This doesn't make sense in a geocentric universe. There's no reason why planets should all of a sudden change direction. This makes perfect sense for the heliocentric model because Earth has a tighter and quicker orbital period than Mars. So as we overtake Mars in the rotation around the sun, it would to us seem as though the planet went backwards and then forwards. There is no explanation for this in a geocentric universe. I know Ptolemy wrote 17 volumes or something trying to explain it, but gravity ruins everything that Ptolemy went over with. Halley's Comet is also an issue. Halley's Comet, we can predict, comes back every 7 years, and there's 2 points throughout every year where Earth experiences meteor showers, and that's when it goes through the trail left by Halley's Comet. No reason at all in the geocentric universe why we would have meteor showers at these particular times in the year, and also be able to predict when Halley's Comet is due to come back into this, into our local part of the solar system. the predictions work on a heliocentric model. You cannot predict these things on a geocentric model. It makes no sense. Geostationary satellites don't make sense on a geocentric world, because a geostationary satellite has to maintain a fixed position above the Earth 22,000 miles up. And the only way it can do that is by having a tangential speed of 1.91 meters per second. If the Earth is stationary, that means that a geostationary satellite is literally just staying there, and gravity as we know it would bring it down and it would crash. So there's so many things. My entire point here is that all of these things can be explained perfectly by the heliocentric model. But for geocentrists to explain these observations, there's a bunch of ad hoc explanations that all contradict each other, a bunch of ignoring basic science and basic observations that we can make and do ourselves. The only way to make all this stuff work in a geocentric world is to just go, well, it does because maybe God said so. Frankly, I think geocentrism is ridiculous. It's 2021. Facts are facts. And a fact is the Earth is not the center of the universe. And I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Fight the Flat Earth.
And okay, so we had Fight the Flat Earth opening. What do you think, guys?
Go ahead, Donald.
And if not, I took a few points just to talk about.
Yeah,
Well, we heard a lot of substance in there.
Yeah, I think what he said spoke for itself. Really, I mean, you know, yeah, he was right on the dot with the you know, with the laser gyroscopes. I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing. A device like that, like he said, it can't see the stars outside. You know, if you put it in a box so it can't even see the room around you, it can still tell you whether or not you've rotated it. And if you sit that box on a table and leave it there, yeah, 1 degree every 4 minutes. It's going to rotate 1 degree every 4 minutes, sitting on a stationary table in a stationary room in a stationary house on stationary ground on a rotating Earth.
The Earth is rotating. That there's no doubt about it.
And one of the early points, I think I put conspiracy on my list because I had seen his thing earlier. But how about the fact that it is kind of, even though we've been rounding this drain for a while, very similar to Flat Earth. It's so funny that I've noticed that I haven't found many Flat Earth geocentrists, which is another thing that I've been noticing. What a subtle difference, but you'd think there'd be.
There was a more subtle aspect of what he said, which I think is actually even more important. And it's a little bit hard to explain in detail, which is probably why he didn't go into the details there. But the Earth rotates on an angle with regard to the ecliptic of our the plane of our solar system. It's not quite parallel. So there is rotation around that circle, and then there's rotation around another circle that's slightly tilted from that one, and that's the one he was talking about, where you get approximately 1 degree of rotation per day. Technically, it's about 365 360ths, or no, that's not right. It's 1 over 365 times 360 degrees or something like that. I might have that inversed, but because our number of days in the year is so close to 360, it comes out to approximately 1 degree every day.
Yeah, and actually,
and that shows the Earth going around the sun, because if the Earth was not going around the sun, that measurement wouldn't happen at all. And like I said, with the rotation of the Earth, it's a little harder to isolate that out of it. But if you do the math, you will find it's there. And that right there is mathematical evidence and physical evidence that the Earth is going around the sun.
Yeah, and I would like to know, just to build off what you just said, I would like to know how we get our day-night cycle and year cycle in a geocentric model at all. I'm pretty sure he said,
Well,
I think he said in his intro he doesn't believe in that we're
Yeah.
rotating.
Well, the geocentric model isn't a physics model, it's a perception model. You know, we are at our own personal center of our perception. And if you map everything from that point of view, then it's not really geocentric, it's us centric. It's observer centric is what it really is. It's not even the earth at the center. It's just we happen to be on the earth. And you know, since we're all over the earth, if you got a lot of observers, yeah, okay, you could say it's kind of like the earth observing or the human population observing. But the thing is, we don't have a lot of observers doing the math and you know, recording the data very specifically. So really, it's an observer centric point of view, and that observer centric point of view says the observer is at the center of their observation, and all of the math will match the observer being at the center of their observation, but it has nothing to do with physics. And if they try to say that they're sitting still just because it looks to them like they're sitting still because they haven't wrapped their brain around the idea that they're moving enough to be able to notice it, then therein lies the problem. Because you know, when I look up at the sky at night, I see the earth rotating. You know, I don't see it as I'm sitting still and the sky is rotating around me. As slowly as the sky moves, I recognize that as my rotation. That I and the land I'm on are together moving eastward, you know, toward the eastern horizon, and you know, the things coming up over the eastern horizon are because of that motion, not because the things coming up over the eastern horizon are moving in their own right. They're moving with respect to my motion.
Also,
We're in
yeah, and
motion.
I'll ask. You probably have a good comment on this, Donald or James, either one. And I'm going to butcher this word, the Coriolis effect.
Coriolis.
Do you have any comments on that? Because that seems to be one that gets both the flat earthers and the
It does, because
geocentrists
it really only
panties
works
in a bundle.
on a globe with an equator, because everything above the equator tends to go counterclockwise and clockwise below because of the momentum of the Earth.
Yeah.
Why storms spin one direction in one hemisphere and the other direction in the other hemisphere, because that's the way the air currents are moving, because that's the way the Earth is moving.
Yeah. Well, if a storm starts in one hemisphere and then goes to the other hemisphere, does it keep spinning that way?
I've never seen that
I
happen.
know.
Yeah, it does. It will keep spinning the way it's going because that's the momentum that was built up by the storm. There is enough difference. If a big storm gets started, it will spin one way on one hemisphere and the other way on the other hemisphere when it's starting, because we're basically going from, you know, roughly still air. You know, the air is trying to get past each other. You know, you've got air pressures pushing in from two different sides, and something's got to pass. You know, or you've got a, you know, up and down where you've got, you know, cold air on the top and warm air on the bottom, and again, something's got to give. And you know, when these things form,
It's a pill for
there's a Coriolis effect going on. And the Coriolis effect is pretty easy to understand if you consider the fact that the Earth is rotating, and that if you're standing on the Earth, you're rotating with the Earth. But when you throw something, if you, for example, launch a cannon, let's say we're over here and do this, okay? North America, okay? Can you see that? That's North America. We've got California over here on this edge, and you know, we've got the New England states over here on this edge. So that's your east. So the Earth is rotating this way. Okay. So let's say when North America gets around here, you know, it's coming around coming around this side, and here you are with a cannon. And you want to shoot a cannon all the way over here to the other hemisphere. Okay. As you launch that cannon in a straight line toward the South Pole, let's imagine the cannon has just enough momentum to make it all the way there, and it's going to land supposedly on the South Pole. Okay, so you launch this cannon from the from the New England states straight south, and it has your eastward momentum, just like you do. But here's the thing: as the Earth keeps going around, it's gonna the land underneath here is going to be moving at a different linear direction than the cannon. So if that cannon is just following the curvature of the Earth here, as it gets over here, its momentum was enough to keep up with it down here, but up here, that's a longer distance for the same number of degrees. So it's going to fall behind a little bit. And when it gets back around here, its eastern movement is going to be faster than the planet because once it passes that same, was it latitude, longitude, whichever it is, the east-west lines, once it passes the one on the other side of the equal one on the other side of the equator, it's going to get to where if it's got that same eastern momentum, again, assuming wind might affect it and stuff like that, but if we just assume that the wind balances out, so it's got roughly the same eastern momentum. Once it starts getting closer to that pole, it's going to be going faster east than the surface of the planet is on that spot. So you've got a curved line that happens. And this is the thing, when a storm starts forming, one side of the storm in one hemisphere, one side of the storm is on an area where it takes more distance to move the same number of degrees than the other side of the storm. So there's a preference for which way that storm can start rotating. If the storm starts right on the equator, it's going to have a hard time picking a direction, and chances are that storm is going to, fizzle out pretty easily before it can even get going. But when it's down in when it's closer to one of the poles, there's enough of a difference there that a direction can get picked, and once that spiral gets going, it makes the storm more efficient and more self-supporting. And then even if it crosses the equator, it'll keep that spin up. It will weaken it, by the way, and the storm will be a little more likely to die down once that happens. But how much more likely, depends just how big of a storm are we talking about, and how far on the other side of the equator does it get.
So I'll take the question in a different direction. How about Halley's Comet? Because he seemed to use that as evidence.
Yeah, well, the comet is, any comet out there, it has to follow the laws of gravity. There's a very predictable path by which it takes. That path is offset a little bit by the solar winds, but they can account for that, and it doesn't make a huge difference. By the way, the tail of the comet doesn't aim toward or away from the direction the comet's moving. The tail of the comet moves away from the sun, and that's because the comet basically, as the comet gets close enough to the sun to partially melt and or evaporate, some of its atmosphere, some of its materials get blown away by what's called the solar winds, the high radiations coming from the sun, and so they're pushed off in the direction directly away from the sun with regard to the position of the comet. So that's where that tail comes from. But it's all predictable stuff, and it's all predictable, based on science and physics. And if you switch to an Earth-centric model, then you've got the question of why is the comet orbiting the sun if everything else is orbiting the Earth?
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. Just like the Coriolis effect, it's really hard to imagine or conceptualize all that working on it with a stationary center Earth. It really just doesn't make sense.
Well, here's the thing: why a comet is particularly important in that sense, because our planets are all on pretty much the same plane. They're going around the sun in a circle, not much different in their orbital plane from each other. Comets are generally not. right in that orbital plane. And so if you look at the Earth-centric model, you could say, well, okay, this whole thing is just, going around the Earth in a circle on that plane. Why would the comet be doing that? It's not orbiting on that plane. It doesn't follow that pattern. The comet is obviously orbiting the sun. Even if everything else isn't, the comet is obviously orbiting the sun. And so if the idea is that the whole universe is orbiting around the Earth, except for the Earth, well, then you have to also say, and except for the comets.
Well, yeah, that
and,
leads
and
to
except for anything that isn't orbiting on our ecliptic on that same plane as the Earth, which means other solar systems, other galaxies, things that are tilted other ways. None of that stuff should be orbiting around the Earth either. So the only real sensible explanation is that the Earth is rotating, and our point of view is therefore rotating. And that, like I said, it's not an Earth-centric model. It is a viewer-centric model, and it only works as a way of explaining one's point of view, not as a way of explaining what the stuff out there that we're viewing is actually doing.
And it makes you wonder what makes the Earth so special. What is the Earth made of? It's not the biggest planet.
Yeah.
It's not the smallest planet. What the hell about the Earth would make our solar system and the entire universe orbit around it?
Well, that's easy, Amy. It's God. It's God.
Yeah,
God made this Earth special.
Gotcha.
That's easy.
Yeah, well, that or it's the
unobtainium.
That or it's the turtle that it's sitting on, swimming through space and keeping it in one place so it doesn't, move with everything else, right?
Well, God made the turtle, so that's still God.
And of course, that turtle wouldn't be able to keep up the swim through space if it didn't have another turtle to be on the back of to help it make that swim.
And let me tell you about that other turtle. When they got together and mate and make baby turtles, they're always going to be baby turtles. They're not going to be frogs or lizards or
Pine
armadillos.
cones?
Always
Come
going to be
on.
a turtle.
Yes, baby turtles the size of the moon.
Yeah, but it's still a turtle, Dak. It's still a turtle.
What if I want pine cone turtles? Can I do that?
Well, you can. He would tell you to apply for a government grant, ask for like $20 million to study that, and try to splice the two genes together.
Yes,
nice. Okay.
Yes, and don't make the mistake of not getting flood insurance.
That's right. Oh, I love that. That really is. Please check out one of my bits, because yes, there is no greater irony than building a quote-unquote life-size replica of an ark
to prove it could be done,
and then suing the insurance company for flood damage. I can't make this up.
Building a replica of the world's most famous fictitious boat to prove it isn't fictitious, and then suing for flood damage.
Well, I was told
on that very boat.
When he was coming up with the idea, they originally planned to have for it to be a zoo with real animals in all the cages, but once they started doing all the upkeep and all that, it wouldn't work. It would just cost way too much money to run and staff and
they might have actually thought it would work before they might have actually thought it would work before they actually did the math and found out that it wouldn't, because
many
he had a just so story about how they got all the manure out of the ark and all that stuff. Right. But the thing is, it would have never worked. And because so when they tried to make the replica of it to demonstrate that it would work, they found that it wouldn't. So they put stuffed animals in there and animatronics instead, because real animals are problematic. And and the ark was not big enough, and the window to dump the manure out of wasn't big enough, and it just wasn't a working model.
Well, it would be really
it was like a flat Earth model.
It would be really problematic if you were going on a tour and you asked Ken Ham, so how many people do you have working here to take care of the animals? And he's like, we have 40 to 50 people. And then, okay, well, tell me how 8 people did it,
Yeah, try more like 4,000 or 5,000 people. There wouldn't
Well, I
even
mean, they
been-
wouldn't be able to have all the animals. I'm just saying about for a boat that
Okay.
size, you know.
So 400
not
or
to have all the
500 people.
species, but you know, it
Well,
would still
hold
be way
on.
more, way
Yeah,
more.
a few hundred people to handle the hundreds of thousands or more realistically millions of animals on the ark. And of
And
course,
how
all of the
old
plants,
were they?
all of the plants necessary to feed those animals, because you obviously can't feed them the other animals if you're trying to, run a replica of maintaining the species by only bringing a limited number of each kind.
Well, they all eat only vegetables before the flood, so yeah, you would have had to bring foliage. They say, oh well, maybe God made them all hibernate during the flood, but no, the original story does say to bring food and water for them. That was
Yeah.
part of what God told them
Well,
to
you-
do. So
Well, you know,
And
chickens
remember,
are.
they're 600 years old, 700, 900. Oh, no, you
Yeah.
know it was
You-
600
you-
years old, remember?
600
You
is
know,
like
birds-
40 today.
You
Yeah,
know, birds are
exactly.
avian therosaurs, right? But by the way,
Birds are
Aaron,
avian
Yes,
dinosaurs.
Right.
Yes.
yeah. Okay. By the way, Aaron Ra has a series that, as I understand it, one episode left to go about that exact subject. So
nice.
you might want to
About the
point
ark.
people in the direction that
Then-
birds being dinosaurs. But
Oh,
here's
yeah.
the thing. Here's the thing.
Absolutely.
Okay. We know that birds are dinosaurs. We know that birds are avian therosaurs. So you got to think, if we're going to make this story sound realistic at all, we have to acknowledge that Noah realized dinosaurs taste like chicken.
Yes.
That's why they
And-
didn't make it.
And this isn't my joke, but it is a little meta that when you're eating dinosaur chicken nuggets, you are actually eating dinosaur chicken nuggets that
That's
are
true.
dinosaurs that are It's a
I've
circle.
never heard of dinosaur chicken nuggets, but that makes sense because all chicken nuggets would be.
Well,
Exactly.
I mean,
They're
and,
You're
there.
talking about dinosaur shaped chicken nuggets? Is that what you mean?
Yes. In other words,
Okay.
they're imitating their ancestors when they become dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you go back to 900 BC, 1000 BC, when these stories were being compiled, they had no idea how many animal species there were on the planet. It just sounded like, oh, okay, we get a boat, we have 8 people on there, they'll bring the animals, they'll bring the food. It all sounded like a logical story, like it was plausible, but it just doesn't work when you know what
No.
we know today.
Now you got me. Now you got me thinking. You know how on Easter people like to get these marshmallow bunnies? Nobody's got a problem with eating marshmallow bunnies. What if somebody were to actually someone who actually has a food factory or something were to try to market for Easter bunny shaped rabbit nuggets, Hassenpfeffer nuggets.
Hey, it's on Easter.
How well do you think that would go over? These kids are like munching down on their rabbit shaped marshmallows, and the parents go, "Oh, and we've got some rabbit nuggets too." Here you go.
There you go. And
And they're actually made of rabbit meat.
Hey, if you can market and spice it and sell it. And so I want to go over 2 last points. One is that I feel like I can draw out the conspiracy theorist. This is me trying to, let's just say,
Gaslight.
not trigger, but I like when I ask them about Elon Musk. I like to ask them about, is Elon Musk, because I either want a direct repudiation of someone like him, and they're like, he's in it. Elon Musk is either with the lizards and the Jewish space lasers and all this, or I guess that's the new fun one. I didn't even hear about that till lately, and then I was like, oh my goddess. Okay.
Don't forget Pigs in Space. I mean, the Muppets beat us to that.
Oh man, Pig, isn't that Mel Brooks? But yes, I love Pigs in Space. And Jews.
It was, yeah.
Apparently. And okay, so I wanted to know where is he sending those? Is it just graphics? Is it just
Pigs in Space was Jim Henson.
Jim Henson? Okay, I'll take it. And the last point that I think I wanted to come across, and then we can just give our final thoughts on the whole subject, is satellites. Another point that Fight the Flat Earth brought up is that we have this whole system of satellites, and what are they? How does this work? We can.
Well, the to me, the most blatantly obvious thing about that is just the fact that the satellites are going around the Earth. Because if he's, because they're close to the Earth. Okay, so he's trying to say all of this other stuff is going around the Earth. The satellites are actually going around the Earth. And what kind of a path do they do it in? Do they do it in epicycloids?
Apparently,
I don't know.
Yeah, apparently they do.
No, they do it in ellipses. They make elliptical orbits around the Earth, just like everything makes elliptical orbits around its local center of gravity. And what's more, what about the Discover satellite, the one with the epic camera that's taking photographs of the daylit side of the Earth about every 2 hours? What kind of an orbital path is that in? Do you happen to know?
Zigzag, curly Q. What do you think,
Yeah.
Amy?
I'm not sure.
It's in a very special orbit. It's in a very special position. There are certain positions between two gravitational bodies called Lagrange points, where there's a balance between the two bodies. For example, if you've got something orbiting between those two things, and the one on the outside is moving at a higher speed, but it's falling behind because it has a longer way to make it around the circle. So you've got the one on the inside passing the one on the outside. Something in between them can get caught in the gravity between them and keep up with the one on the outside, because it's being dragged along with it. We've got the sun, which is the center of mass in our solar system. And then we've got this Discover satellite, which is being dragged along with Earth 1 million miles closer to the sun than Earth is. So, there's a tug going on there. And as it looks from 1 million miles away from the Earth on the sunlit side, it sees the sunlit side of the Earth 24 hours a day. Now, how could we make that happen if the scientific understanding of gravity wasn't accurate enough to be able to deal with the precision necessary to keep that satellite in place? Because there's going to be a little wobble there, and there's got to be once in a while they've got to make a little adjustment to keep it from floating too far to one edge of that spot or another, and eventually losing its orbit. But it's a pretty stable orbit, and it keeps up with the Earth all year long.
Maybe Amy sacrifices something to the devil and he does it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's just it. That's just it. If you don't understand the science, the only way the Discover satellite can be working is by magic. It would have to be magic. And what is magic really? Well, it's just stuff that you don't understand how it works. I think it was Isaac Asimov that said, any sufficiently advanced science can pass for magic.
That's true.
In other words, if the science is over your head, if you don't understand the science, it might as well be magic. And the orbit of the Discover satellite fits in that category for anybody who doesn't understand general relativity. It might as well be magic, but it's happening. Unlike magic tricks, it's actually happening. It doesn't just appear to be happening. It's actually happening, and we can observe that because we can go to the website for that satellite any time of any day and get pictures from the day before, photographs taken of Earth from the day before that. Not only from the day before, but the day before that, the day before that, the day before that, the day before that. Once in a while, it'll miss a whole day. Once in a while, it misses a picture during a day, because it doesn't have a way to resend an image if it doesn't get received correctly. But this thing is taking pictures all day long. Now, once in a while, they'll program it for some special event, like when it's going to have the moon in its view, to take extra pictures during that time, and then send a burst of them later or something. but generally speaking, it's just taking pictures about every 2 hours. And
These
you
are the
can
photos
believe-
Amy manipulates to make it look like, when she's got her NASA hat on.
Exactly, because we support all NASA shills. Sending a shout out. I guess we are NASA shills tonight. Speaking of it, and I
Pretty
wanted
much.
to. You were speaking of magic. I wanted to get, but do you believe in magic in a young man's heart? But I guess none of us would here. That's okay. It's okay. So with that, I want to ask you both.
it's in the chat now. There's the link. If anybody wants to see, many, 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 many images of Earth's sunlit side taken at basically any day you can pick, since they put that thing up there, with a few exceptions. Like I said, it occasionally manages to get a day where there's maybe bad weather on Earth and they're unable to receive the images or something. In bad weather in the area that receives the images. But there's you can look at the images there and you can spot hurricanes that people didn't even know happened. And if there was a hurricane that was known to happen on a particular day, chances are its image is captured in at least one of those photos.
Yep, and I actually have sent them when I've debated a flat earther. Shout out to Flat Earth Ozzy. He was quite the gentleman when I debated him. I debated Flat Earth Ozzy. Really? Oh,
yeah.
But I showed them a NASA runs a live stream of the ISS, but it doesn't matter because it's just to them CGI, easily made, and it doesn't matter how much you have to be wanting to find facts to find. And so but both of you, in whatever order you guys want to go in, my question is, are you guys convinced is Earth the center of the solar system / universe?
Yeah, I don't see any reason to change my mind on that. It's
yes, it definitely still is. No, just kidding.
Yeah,
not changing our mind.
I'm still a little skeptical.
The sun is still the center of the solar system, and
yeah. Well, it's the solar system. I mean, seriously, is the Earth the center of the Earth system? Yeah. What's in the Earth system? The Earth and the Moon. That's it. Earth is roughly the center of the Earth system. It's actually slightly off center, but close enough.
So the Moon can rotate around the Earth and still also yet rotate around the Sun.
Right. As a matter of fact, the Earth and the Moon rotate around each other. They're doing this. But the Earth is much heavier than the Moon, so it looks more like this. That's still even an exaggeration. It actually looks more like and that one that you can see easily going around, that's the Moon. Except it takes a month to do that, and another month to do that, and another month to do that. So if you were actually looking at a real-time image of the Earth orbiting around of the Moon orbiting around the Earth, what it will basically look like is the Earth not going anywhere. Just sitting there in relation to the Earth. But it depends on the angle from which you're looking at it. For example, if you're looking from that Discover satellite, the Earth will transit in front of, or the Moon will transit in front of the Earth in a rather short time, because it does have a rather fast linear motion. It's the angular motion that is very, very slow. And that is slow because that linear motion is happening at a very large radial distance from the Earth.
I mean, that's like sometimes you'll hear the flat earthers and they'll say like, oh, do you feel like you're moving 1,000 miles an hour at the equator? But what they don't realize is that the Earth is a very big ball and it's moving 1,000 miles an hour, but it still only turns around once in a day. So, if you take a basketball and rotate it once a day.
As soon as they say spinning at miles per hour, doesn't matter how many miles per hour, as soon as they say spinning at miles per hour or spinning at any linear speed, they've got their physics wrong. Spinning doesn't happen at a linear speed. Also, the Earth doesn't spin. It rotates. Yes, they call it planetary spin, but spin is defined as rapid or fast rotation. The Earth doesn't rotate fast or rapidly. It rotates slowly.
One turn a
One
day.
revolution every 24 hours, 1 degree every 4 minutes.
Yep.
That's very, very slow. So if you want to know what it feels like to spin on a merry-go-round as fast as the Earth does, take 24 hours to push the thing around once. Or if you don't want to wait that long, take 4 minutes to push it 1 degree and see if anybody flies off during the process of it moving 1 degree in 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's why they're like, why isn't everybody flying off the Earth? Well, it's not moving anywhere near fast enough.
And
Yeah, because of its size.
the other subject I wanted to ask while we're wrapping up, Donald, did you have anything you wanted to advertise?
Well, just
Channel,
that,
Twitter?
no, just that upcoming program on your channel. Really, I mean,
He's put his link in
anybody,
3 times.
Yeah, anybody that wants to go over there and throw a like in there. It's got 5 of them so far. We could get a few advanced likes on that for anybody who thinks that's going to be fun. So other people that show up can maybe get the idea that it might be worth telling people about. We got 12 people in here right now. When we close this one out, anybody that wants to go over there and in fact I'll throw the link in one more time. So we've got it on closing, and once you shut off this stream, I'd recommend anybody out there, go ahead and go click like on that, and let other people coming to it know that this is something that somebody thinks is going to be good. So I think
will be good.
I think that'll benefit people. So
all right,
here's the link, and yeah, that should be interesting because we're gonna have Aaron Ra and I. We've got quite different views on certain things with regard to how evolution should be taught, or at least we have had. I don't know if this might have changed some of his point of view on that, because I've kind of proven myself right. What I said would work worked, and I had a lot of people telling me that it wouldn't. I understand their reasons; they were valid reasons, but I do plan to have the evidence available to show exactly why. I knew that what Kent Hovind really wanted was for us to avoid addressing all of evolution and just stick to biological evolution, and he was trying to make everybody think that he wanted just the opposite.
Well, they
He
like
wasn't
to
ready.
bait and switch, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wasn't ready for someone to actually address the whole topic. He only was ready for biological evolution, and barely even ready for that, because his arguments with regard to biological evolution are crap.
Yeah,
It's all he's got.
that's all he has.
And okay, so look forward to that, guys. In fact, I want to thank James W., Donald, Ogre, Robert, Jim, Ant, Doc, Stripper, Jamie, Titan,
Stripper, the whole crew.
Ian,
Yes.
Dave never came, Mubarak, Doorknob, and James from Modern Day Debate for letting us have these 2 wonderful interlockers of Dr. Robert and Fight the Flat Earth. Good night, everyone, and keep being skeptical.